Hello, Internet. Welcome to the Hey CTO podcast. This episode is for the second season. And today, me and Sarah, we have the pleasure to be talking to Sofia Silva. So Sofia, for the ones that don't know, she's working at remote.com. She's right now a director of software engineering. And definitely we are super excited to be talking to her today. So Sofia, thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, Pedro, and thank you, Sarah. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for our introduction. Maybe I can introduce myself a little bit.
Absolutely, that actually would be my first ask. So for the internet, anyone, if you could kind of introduce yourself, that would be super helpful.
So, as you said, I'm Sofia. I'm now a director of engineering at Remote. I'm from Portugal. I live in a really small town in the south of Portugal. I just moved to a new house. I live near the country. I can eat the birds and the chicken and everything when I wake up. So I'm pretty happy. And that's it. I'm happy to be here.
So this is probably this introduction pretty much begs the question that is, what is the correlation between you working at remote.com and you moving to the countryside?
All the correlation, because I was already in my previous startup. I was already working remotely, but I had to go to the office like 2 days per week. Now it's completely remotely, and it kind of inspired me to come back to my hometown. So I decided to come back to my hometown. My partner is from also from here. I have all my family here, and I realized what am I doing in Lisbon? Like I need to go back to my own town, and that's it. It was it.
Fantastic. Actually, that's one thing that we've been observing with some interesting frequency. That is, I think a couple of years ago, especially before the pandemic, there was this assumption, Monday to Friday at the office, there would be no sort of way that you could live, quite far away. Otherwise, you would face a very challenging commute, right? So it would take you like 1 hour to get to the office. Then I don't know if you have some sort of kind of endeavors like going to practice some sport, picking up kids from school, going to the so many things that definitely made everything so much challenging because we were all concentrated at the same place. And definitely now seeing people actually having this freedom to obviously maybe move abroad, or at least even in Portugal to start working in a very different location where it would be completely unthinkable to do something like that like a couple of years ago. I think it's fantastic, not only for us, but even more to the local economy, right? Because now there is like someone like you that it would never be back to hometown at this sort of age. Would you agree with that?
Exactly that, and it's a difference that you can also make in the community, right? So we have a lot of people that are leaving my hometown because it's really small and you don't have the opportunities here. But if people can work from anywhere, you are also bringing new talent to those communities, and for me that's amazing.
Fantastic, super cool.
Yeah. But I need to ask something. I cannot get. I need to ask this, Sofia, because me and Pedro, we were digging into your LinkedIn, and you didn't mention on your introduction, but we know that you studied something completely different from what we are used to here in the podcast, in this podcast. So can you tell us a bit more about your academic, how did it started? And how did you end up now in the remote?
So I'm a medical doctor. I was working in pediatrics. I worked in pediatrics for 4 years, and that was really my background. It was like 10 years working for that and making it happen and all of that. And I was working in the hospital mainly, not in primary care, but really doing emergency room and all of that. Actually, how this started, I always like computers. I was always a geek. I was never one I was never one that I never thought I want to be a medical doctor since I was a child. I never said it. I knew that I liked to solve problems. I knew that I liked science, and I knew that I like people. So that's why I went to medicine, and particularly pediatrics, because it's really close to my heart. But my sister actually, she was studying to be an engineer, and I wanted to help her start like a really small company where she could do apps to customers. So I built that small company for her, but we had a lot of customers and we couldn't handle it. So I decided, okay, maybe I will start learning how to do this so I can help my sister. And I was amazed. Like my first hello world, I know this sounds like cliche, but like, oh my God, people do this for a living? Are you serious? This is so fun. So I started learning and learning and learning more, like internet, YouTube, articles, whatever. I started pushing code to GitHub. I started going to some meetups. And there was a time that I actually was approached by the CTO of my previous startup saying, "Hey, Sofia, I saw your profile. Do you want to join our startup? We are just starting." And at that time, I decided, yeah, let's do it. Let's just do it. So,
And you quit your medical job and you.
yes, it was like 3 months pause from one to the other.
Wow.
Oh, so you stopped medicine, and
Yes.
you were kind of still investing, but you definitely, it was almost like, okay, this is what I want to do now, and then the opportunity came.
I paused for 3 months. It's what I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Before that, I
Amazing.
was already doing some freelancer projects with my sister, but really small things. But yeah, the decision was mainly for the quality of life. That mainly because I was very happy doing software development. It was something that it really made me happy. I also like medicine, right? But the quality of life was getting worse and worse and worse. It's a reality right now. No other way to put it. So I changed mainly because of the quality of life and because I was doing also something that I loved. So
That you love,
win-win.
sure. And tell us one thing, Sophia. So you studied 6 years to become a doctor, right?
Yes.
You practiced for 4 years.
Yes.
You started almost as a gig for fun to help your sister. This story is amazing, by the way. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you kind of tried that. So for someone that wants to make a career shift, that wants to reinvent themselves, maybe it's someone that is listening to us. The way that you've done it. So because, for instance, I'm assuming that you didn't even do a boot camp, for instance. It was all about just consuming everything that was free, available on the internet. Would you recommend that as something that the next Sophia that would reach out to you and say, "Oh, Sophia, no, look, your story is amazing. I want to do something like that." Would you recommend exactly your approach, or today you would actually consider something a little bit different?
I think it depends. It depends because I actually have people reaching down to me saying, "Can you help me? Can you help me do the same?" But it depends on the person. I think a lot of people, boot camps are good for them. For me, I thought I wouldn't take anything else from there because I was kind of in a place where I was kind of exactly as you said, consuming everything by myself, like crazy times, but really fun times. So I think it depends of the person that you are talking to. It depends of the personality.
Okay, the way that maybe the person also learns, the better, right? So it's self-driven in a class environment.
Yeah, makes sense. And is there something that you miss from those days as a medical, and something that you don't miss like at all?
I miss the children. I always say this is the thing that I miss the most. I don't have kids myself, and I was used to see like 30 kids per day or so, different kids per day or something like that. So I was always around kids. Really, newborns until even 18.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
and now I'm not. So I think it's the thing that I miss the most, is being surrounded by kids. The thing that I miss the less. Sleeping at the hospital, working 38 hours straight.
Oh God,
Yeah, that's
that's
heavy.
brutal. That's brutal. No, for sure. No, insane. I think we don't even imagine when that's happens, right? Everyone's just watching the Doctor Houses and Grey's Anatomies
And then
of this
great.
life,
Yep.
where everything looks so amazing and fantastic, and then
Yeah.
no, super cool. Um, One thing that also super interesting, looking to your trajectory now, just inside software engineering world. So individual contributor, and then definitely we can see that you went through a more leadership of people sort of approach, right? So
Yes.
managing teams, director. There is also a different flavor of leadership. Usually that's what I call it. That is staff engineer, principal. So definitely also in the leadership zone, but more geared towards technology than people. Although obviously you need to always have a little bit of both. Um, was this something that just kind of happened by chance, and someone just kind of challenged you to do that, and you're like, sure, I'm game? Or was this something that while you were a individual contributor, you said to yourself, no, my next steps or the way that I want to evolve as a professional is definitely going to the management track?
Yeah, I think it happened naturally. And even in my previous startup, I know that my LinkedIn is not, because I don't update it a lot, but I was leading the engineering team. So we were a really, really small startup, right? So we didn't have VPs or directors or anything like that. So I was doing a bit of tech lead, as you were talking about, also a bit of people management. I was also coding, so I was
All
like,
over the place.
I was doing all of that. And when I came to remote, I decided, let's start as just IC. I'm more a front end engineer. I also do a bit of backend, but I'm more a front end engineer. So I started as an IC, but it was a really horizontal structure, right? I joined remote. We were like 7 engineers. I don't know.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
we didn't have any others, so I kind of grew with remote, right? We hired the next engineers. I was always part of that, and then we needed to have a structure because now we are more than 100, and I grew with that structure. That is also the reason. So it was something that was really natural. I think I always end up in leadership roles. I always say, like, as a joke, that I used to play World of Warcraft when I was in college, and I was a guild master for more than 1 year. So I was already managing a lot of people.
Good analogy.
Oh God. Super cool.
And in medicine, I also, you always end up managing people because you have interns, you have people that are younger than you, that are more junior than you, working with you. So you always end up managing people in a one way or another.
Do you think that being a doctor somehow influenced the way that you are as a software engineer? Is this something that you stop and your behavior, attitudes, ways of thinking? Do you see some sort of influence from the medicine branch, or completely unrelated?
No, I think that more than a half that where I am right now, it comes from that time. To be totally honest with you, I found it, first of all, I find it very similar, and I know that it is sometimes kind of hard to understand, but I found it similar, the mindset that you need to have. Because when you are a medical doctor, you are solving problems. You are trying to find simple solutions for complex problems. And sometimes you need to act. And you need to know the risks, you need to evaluate the data that you have, and you need to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions need to be quick, and sometimes you need to hold back a bit, and think it out better. So as you can see, the mindset is really similar, even as I see in doing code. When you are looking for a bug, the mindset is exactly the same. Like when you are, it's true. When you are diagnosing something as a medical doctor, you have all this in your mind already. That comes from experience, right? Also, I already saw this. I already saw this.
Patterns, right?
Exactly that. You do the same when you are coding and when you are debugging something and all of that. So, in terms of managing, yes, I think it comes a lot from it. I used to spend my days talking with people. I used to spend my days talking with parents, children, parents mostly. Sometimes really hard to manage. Uh,
Oh, so I have now a new question. So
okay.
what's more difficult to communicate with, children or software engineers?
Oh, software engineers for sure. It's not so easy.
That made my
do,
day.
do you recall like the moment that you started facing some challenges where you felt now I'm missing some tools here, I don't know how do I going to handle this situation because of your background? So you had such a different background then as a front-end engineer, then started handling more people and managing more people. Was there any moment where you felt, what do I do now?
Yeah. I think all of us will have that moment, I think. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's like a bad sign if you don't have those moments
yeah,
in your
yeah,
life. It means that you are stuck, you are not growing, you are not
yeah.
learning new things. So that's, I love being challenged. And of course, I had challenge, but um, well, until now, I was able to solve them and try to gain confidence. Of course, I have something that at the beginning I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on. Also, it
Sure,
was
of course.
something that I had to overcome. Um, but yeah, until now, I think yeah, of course, challenge. Let them
Yeah,
come.
it's good. It's good. But for instance, while you were growing, remote was also growing. Did you
Yeah.
felt a big differences in terms of your responsibilities between like a lead, manager, director? Did you felt that difference while you were growing and the company was growing as well?
Yeah, it's really different. And the thing is, the company grew very fast, so we had to all grew very fast. Not just me, like everyone in the company. We have to, we had to. So I think mainly the turning point was not from IC to being a team lead. A team lead at remote is someone that already manage people, already has reports, is already the management path. It was more when I started as engineer manager and being a manager of managers, managing multiple teams and try to align multiple teams. And that's why I also grew to director, because it's something that I really love to do, is to align multiple teams. It's like to have an holistic vision of everything that is happening and make sure that we call it verticals, that multiple verticals are aligned, that we are all going to the same goal and the same outcome. And of course, we need to have like clear boundaries between verticals and between teams, but we also should avoid silos. And I'm always talking about that. Silos are really bad. We should not work in silos. So it's a big part of my job. And I find that I also love it. So
Super cool. Out of curiosity, do you use OKRs at remote? So what sort of alignment tools are you currently using?
no,
Could share with
we
us.
don't. No, we don't use OKRs for now. We decided not to. It's something that we are discussing with the people team. We we believe in continuous feedback, and this means that exactly that. Like every day, we talk with people. We have like feedback sessions like every 3 months or 6 months, and we have those cycles. But that is just a summary of everything that we did until now, because we really believe that if something is wrong, we should talk about it like right away, try
Of
to
course.
solve it right away, and all of that. So yeah,
Of course.
just
I
been
had
working.
I had a colleague of mine in a past life. that would say, that data is like guacamole, or you use it right away, or then it just goes bad, right? Because guacamole with the oxygen just gets, not great. And so it's the feedback is exactly the same, right? It's completely pointless for me to want to. I see something that I want them to give feedback on. I'm waiting a month or two or three, and I'm going to deliver that. It's not impactful. Maybe the person that's getting the feedback doesn't even remember what happened, why the person was feeling like that. And so to your point, Sophia, I think that's super interesting, right? Like we see something, we deliver feedback, right? As long as we are all with a good intention of helping each other grow, and we have positive intent, I think that's definitely a fantastic tool.
Agree.
Super cool.
And talking about feedback, I remember, for instance, I got through the transition from before the pandemic and after. And about giving feedback to people, I felt a big difference between being on the office with all of them and see everything happening, and I could provide them the feedback of the things that I saw. Then when we went to fully remote, I started feeling that challenge. Oh, now what I do? I need to find some tools to help me out so I can provide them valuable field feedback. But for you, so it seems that you start managing people fully remote since the beginning, right? was
Yeah.
that was that something challenging, something that inside remote you talk about, that about managing people fully remote, the challenges of that?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. I was always a big advocate of remote work. I was already talking about it a lot in my previous startup. I was like the one always saying, we should go fully remote. These are the advantages, this, and this, and this. Um, so when I came to remote, I already had that mindset that I actually believed in a lot. We talk about that a lot. We have training. Our CEO, our CTO, they are big remote. They have a lot of experience in remote work, especially our CEO that comes from GitLab. That is a company that is fully remote
Yes.
for a lot of years. Um, and what we try to do is to work asynchronous, mostly asynchronous. This means that we write down everything. We have a culture of documentation. We don't expect anyone to answer right away from Slack. Uh, we use Notion. We use GitLab to scope issues with product, with design, with multiple teams. So everything is written down independently of the time zone. I can go there and read what happened, how did we get to that conclusion, and all of that. Regarding feedback, that's sometimes a bit different. So we still have one-on-ones, we still have face-to-face meetings. We don't have meetings to talk about work, or we can have like one per week per team, but it's not where we make the biggest decisions, right? But we still need to have face-to-face meetings in terms of feedback, in terms of management. So for me as a manager, I have my calendar full because it's not a problem for me because I have one-on-ones. It's full of one-on-ones, and it's
Sure.
full of things that needs to be done face-to-face. I'm totally fine with that. I don't want an IC to have a calendar full. They should have like
No.
one meeting per week at most, and the other meeting should be coffee chats, hangouts, playing games with each other. That's it. So I think it's a balance. And feedback sometimes, if it's something really simple, Slack message will work. If it's not, we talk in the next one-on-one because it's weekly. So
I love the where we are right now in terms of conversation, because we just brought two super interesting topics that I think that sometimes people confuse one by the other, and at least in my opinion they are very, very different. So one is remote work, so this pretty much means that you're, I don't know, in your hometown. I'm with my background of New York in Montijo. Sarah is Sarah is in Charleca, and this is pretty much remote, right? So we are not in the same physical space. We are pretty much just making like an awesome episode, and this is like the beauty of remote. Like we can be anywhere and still make things happen. One thing that you mentioned that is also super interesting is the async piece. That is, regardless of being remote or not, when I'm working asynchronously, it just means that I have my own schedule. I might be in the most random time zone ever. We have working agreements that allows us as a team to still be effective without being aligned in terms of working hours. Um, that was actually the part that I've never experienced, the async work. You definitely have been working like that. From what I've heard, it seems like it's going well, which makes me super happy. If you if I would ask you kind of what you think are, kind of the biggest challenges in async work, um, and the key factors, the success factors definitely need to be in place in order for async culture to work. What would you tell us?
I think first of all is the mindset. So if you are working asynchronous, everyone should know that everyone is working asynchronous. That's the
Everyone
first.
at the same level, right? Everyone's asynchronous.
Exactly that. That's the first point, because if you have people that are expecting that you reply to them in Slack messages like right away, the other person maybe will feel pressure to do it, regardless of the company saying don't do it. But so the first thing and most difficult thing is to change the mindset of people that are not used to work asynchronous. The second thing that we talked about is a culture of documentation. As you know, documentation is really important. Not everyone sometimes stops to update the documentation. That's one point. And then you have the other factor that is sometimes people have multiple sources of documentation for the same thing. So if you have, and that is the part of I need to align teams, is that if you have people working kind of in the same things, they start a piece of documentation, the other team starts another piece of documentation, and at the end you have two sources, and it's a mess. It cannot be. So when you talk about cultural documentation, it's not just document all the things. It is, but also in an organized way that we can search. You can have people that are responsible for updating that documentation, and everyone can also update the documentation. So even people that we have onboarding, in the first week, we always say that go to the onboarding. That is all documented, all the flow. They have videos. They have everything for the first week. If you feel that in that flow something is not okay, change it. And I'm always receiving email notifications that a newcomer change a part in Notion. That's really great. So it's like a living thing. But I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah. And since we are talking so much about documentation, so I always make genuine questions that so I can learn as well. And since we are talking about documentation, I have two questions for you. So the first one is, do you have any team only dedicated to documentation inside remote? And the second one, how did you end up finding a good structure for the documentation that people can find the right things easily? Because that's one of the challenges that I always struggle the most, like finding the right index so people can find and don't create everything over and over again. So if you could share that.
Exactly. That's yes. We have a team just for internal documentation. We also started something that is called, but this is for the whole team, not just for engineer. Okay, we have like a channel that is cannot find anything in Notion, like send a message here. So it's still a problem. It
Cool.
will always be a
Yeah.
problem if you have a lot of documentation, but it's a matter of also trying to have templates in a way that you divide the documentation. It's also a matter of if someone asks you a question saying, do you know if the product does this? Instead of answering, like send a link. Oh,
Yeah.
it's here. You should send a link to Notion saying it's here. And if it's
Yeah.
not in Notion, maybe it should be in Notion. And you are always trying to tell people where things are, and they can have like their personal spaces in Notion. I do have like one page with my personal space with the main pages that I actually need. So yeah, it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge, especially when you have a lot of people contributing to the same documentation. But there are ways to mitigate the disadvantages of that.
Thank you.
do you get together, in real life every now and then? So is that something, that remote explores in terms of say, okay, so we are all working remotely, and so once a year we all fly to, I don't know, Jamaica, and we spend a week together to do some sort of kind of brainstorming. It's just for people to hang out, bond, and things like that, or that need never came up.
That need came up, especially during COVID. So
Oof.
when we were fewer people. So we had 2 years of COVID. A remote existed even before COVID. But then we experienced 2 years of COVID where we couldn't meet with each other. I used to live near people that were working with me, and in that time, I couldn't see them face to face because it was really, I joined remote in the peak of COVID and all of that. So we talked about having meetings with all of the company. I don't know how is it going, or we talked about it. But yes, what we try to do is to offer opportunities a lot. You have to be very explicit to offer opportunities for people to hang out. So we have like game time. We have hangout channels that are open that you can join during the day if you want to. You don't even need to turn your camera off. It can be just voice, and people are just working together. So you have to be very explicit for people to bond, to make
Of course,
connection.
needs to be more intentional, right? Because
Intentional.
my idea is that, while, for instance, and by the way, I'm a big fan of remote as well, but while at the office, I think that naturally the opportunity comes up, right? Because let's say the three of us, we are grabbing coffee at the same time, or maybe we're actually going out, for lunch together. And definitely, I think there are very spontaneous moments where we can bond, connect, talk. Maybe you're talking and I'm overhearing something and I join the conversation. While obviously, if we are all in our places, we definitely need to be much more incentivizing people to connect, because otherwise I'll just be missing out, right? Because I'm just here on my own sort of world. There's no way I can overhear someone or see that someone just went for a coffee because I'm here, right? So it's definitely something interesting.
Exactly.
Now, super cool.
We are reaching
Yes,
to the
we are.
part where we do some final questions.
Let's do this.
Yeah, we always have 3 final questions, more personal and fun. I think this time I will start with the first one. And Sofia, and here this one is going to be interesting. I'm curious about.
I
your
love the
answer.
suspense. Like,
what do you believe is your superpower?
I care. I think that's it. I care. I care about people. I care about the outcome. I care about everything that I do. So when I'm doing something, like, I put all my heart in it and all my mind. So I care. That's it.
Such a good answer.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Already happy for that. So if you could have any job in the world, it doesn't need to be forever. Could be just a couple of hours, maybe a day, like something completely, you could just do it, try it out, and then just go back to your normal life. What job would that be?
Oh, this is embarrassing because I know the answer to that. I think I will be like a rock star for one day. I really love music, and I just want to
Love
go out
it.
there to the stage with my guitar, and that's it. More than that is
Oh God, love it. Super cool. Very nice, rockstar.
Okay, so now I care, rockstar. Now the final one. Name your favorite dessert. It can be from Portugal, or it can be for any other country that we already visited.
No limits.
well. It's not really a dessert, but pastel de nata is in my art, and it will be in my art like forever. I eat a lot of pastel de nata. My aunt has a bakery, and she does like the best pastel de nata, and I know that I cannot go there every day, or I'll become very fat very quickly.
That's dangerous.
Now we understand why Sofia returned to her hometown. So it's all
Yep.
about pastéis de nata and bakery.
Exactly.
You need to share with us the spot so we can go there to eat some
Oh
as
my
well.
God, exactly. So
Love it.
Sophia, just before we close, I just remember one thing that I need to ask. So imagine that you're, I don't know, it could be an airplane, maybe it's like in a restaurant, and someone is choking because they are eating a lovely steak, and you have that cliche that we hear in the movie saying, "Is there a doctor in the house?" So option A, you would say something like, "Nope, software engineer here, nothing to do with me." Or B, you would say, "Okay, maybe I'm a little bit rusty, but I can try." So which one would you go?
Well, I think the second one. That never happened to me in the plane, but it happened to me in the street more than
Oh,
once.
really? Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes, and I, I cannot say no. I have to at least try. Uh, I, I'm a little rusty, as you said. I am, but I know more than the people that are around
Than the
me.
regular person. Boom. There you go. Software engineer, but at day, doctor at night. There you go. Also superpower. Sophia, thank you so much. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking to you. Super good fun. We had a blast.
Me too.
And so that's it, So internet, thank you so much. We had Sophia with us from remote.com. It was a fantastic episode. And so, yeah, stay tuned for more episodes of this second season and see you around. Take care. Bye.